Hi, welcome to the Nonprofit Mastermind Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Brooke Richie-Babbage. Every Tuesday on the regular Nonprofit Mastermind podcast, I do a deep dive into the strategies and mindset behind launching and leading a high-impact nonprofit. This Spotlight is a special limited weekly series in which I showcase and celebrate the incredible organizations inside my Impact Accelerator program, lifting up their mission, their work, and their powerful personal stories of leadership. Today, I have the pleasure of showcasing the TrueStar Foundation based in Chicago. It's the brainchild of an incredible duo, DeAnna Sherman and Thompson. TrueStar Foundation brings young people deep into the world and business of media production, using media as a platform for giving young people a creative outlet, a belief that their voice matters, and a professional toolbox that can be leveraged their entire lives. Teens not only produce actual high-quality media, including 2 magazines, a blog, a TV show, and a radio show, as well as media for businesses and corporations. They also advise and execute business strategy, conduct market research, develop marketing campaigns, and are the ultimate decision makers of the brand and direction of the organization itself. In our conversation, DeAnna, Natay, and I talk about how these two ladies came together almost 20 years ago, quite by accident, and co-founded TrueStar Foundation. We talk about the lessons they've learned from founding and building an organization from the ground up, how they have weathered the storms of their partnership and stayed true to one another and to the mission, and how they continue to innovate and remain responsive to both a changing media sector and the evolving needs of young people over decades. It's a great and rich conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, DeAnna and Natay, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited to be talking to you both. It's so great to have you here and to be able to share more about what you guys are doing with your incredible organization. I thought I would dive in and let you guys talk about what it is you have built together over these many years. I always love talking to sort of compadres, like pairs of people who have been in the fire together as you guys have for quite some time. And it's just really incredible what you've built and how you work together. So let's start there. What do you guys do with TrueStar? Tell us about the mission and the work.
Okay, well, I will jump it off. TrueStar's mission is to empower underserved youth. TrueStar's mission is to empower underserved youth to forge their own paths by providing jobs and training that teaches them to create, develop, and market digital content on platforms that empower them, to platforms that celebrate their identity and perspectives. So that is a mouthful.
But they're clear. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we say platforms because that could be the TrueStar platform, which we have a media platform, but that could be someone else's platform. That could be for a partner, a company, a community, collaborators. So the platform is kind of more vague, but the point is to really empower them. And we use media as a tool.
I love that. I was going to ask about that word empowerment. You said platforms that empower them. Why empowerment? Like why? How do the platforms empower them? How is that empowering for young people?
Well, go ahead, Natay.
Sorry. So I was just going to say that empowerment is so important in young people's lives. The reason that we started the organization was because we wanted to give young people a voice. A lot of times, when we grew up, it was like, sit down and shut up. That's what you were told by adults. You be quiet. You're in the room, but you're not heard. And it's kind of unfair because young people don't turn 18, 19 years old and just automatically know how to be an adult. Like,
and learn how to use their voice. Absolutely.
They're little people in training. So we have to put them in training. They're going to make mistakes just like adults make mistakes. And I like to say that we came up with the word adultism.
You should claim that.
But I felt like DeAnna and I, we just have such an affinity for young people. And, I know my experience growing up, I definitely grew up in a household that was kind of like, yeah, you sit down over there and wait your turn. You sit at the kids' table. And it's just not realistic to me, because then you have people who are adults who don't really know how to cope and communicate, because they haven't been allowed to express their opinions freely without feeling like they're going to be judged or get in trouble or whatever. And that's what we wanted to provide. We wanted to give them an opportunity to tell their own stories, and in a judgment-free zone.
So you talked a little bit about, and both of you referenced this sort of how your own experiences growing up informed this mission and this work that you do and your affinity for young people. How did you guys come to be doing this work, and how did you come to be doing it together? Which, like I said, I love talking to co-leaders because it's its own thing.
It definitely is. For sure. Well, I think it's we chuckle about it all the time, because I worked in the youth programming space with the Chicago Park District, and DeAnna was also working in the same space, but on the media side. So we would be at the same community events, and we just kind of chat and learn a little bit about each other, but we weren't like cool, like we weren't homies like that. Right. I randomly called her one day. I was like, hey, you want to do this journalism program? And she was like, thinking like, what? And that told me, like, I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to shoot my shot, whatever. But that call was not with TrueStar in mind. That call was not with 2022 TrueStar at all. This was just something, because I worked at the Park District and I needed to put together, some type of program for the young
programming.
People.
Yeah.
It might be something cool. So when we chatted about it and said, let's do journalism to be able to, help these young people with being able to communicate, because they couldn't write, they couldn't spell, they couldn't talk, they could, all these things that they need to be successful in college and beyond. And we saw that juniors and seniors that couldn't pull a paragraph together. So that's kind of how it began. It's just like this, strange phone call. It's like, hey, let's work on this grant together.
I mean, one thing I love.
Even though, I'll just add real quick, even though, it was a super random call, I'm like, wow, that's kind of bold, but I like bold people. I like people who have the audacity to just do that. It reminds me a little bit of myself. And then, I had admired Nate from afar just for everything that she was doing when I would go to her events. Like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. She's doing all this great stuff. And, it was just like, okay, let's try it, type of thing. And here we are. Wow. 17, 18 years later.
I was going to say almost 2 decades later. I mean,
yes.
One thing I love, and you just, reinforce this, DeAnna, is there's both, you said boldness and audacity. And I love until you said, I just shoot my shot. Like that's when you're going to do something bold, like you guys are doing, that's what you have to do. Right. And that is what kicked it off. And in talking with you guys are still doing that, right? You have to do that with your kids. You have to do that with funders. So that bravery is just, part of the DNA of starting and building an organization. Yeah. And then the other thing that I hear from both of you that I just want to lift up, because it really comes through in how you guys work together. There's just such clear admiration, right? So, when you think about what makes a co-leadership model or partnership work, it sounds like from the very beginning, there's almost like I see you over there and you're awesome. And like, how can we do this? How can we work together? And that admiration is really clear. I love that. So what do you guys do at TrueStar? Talk to me a little bit about the programs and how you carry out this mission.
Yeah, well, I will say that our programs have always been in somewhat of transition. We went from a newsletter to where young people were just doing the writing to a full 42 page or more 48 page glossy magazine where they're doing the writing, they're doing some of the photography, they're doing some of the graphic design, they're even selling advertising. So over the years, we added programs that would have been departments in a real media company, right? Because I worked for Essence. So I was able to see like all these different functions of a media organization. And what was mind-boggling to me was the business side, because young people didn't know how media made money. They had no idea of like the business model of media. And so we were like, man, it would be cool if they knew about all these different positions. And so we just basically made them programs. And so in 2018, we shifted from serving millennials to serving Gen Z totally. And they were basically like, we don't read magazines. I was crushed because I'm a magazine girl, and the magazine was like our baby. When it would come, when the box of magazines come, it's like we would open it and like a light would come out of it, like, and it would be like, oh, look at it. Oh my God, all these hours of editing and figuring it out, and it's done. And so I was just like, wow. But I remember the exact day, me and Tay were coming from a meeting in a cab. This before Uber, how long we've been around. And we were like, man, all this money we're spending on print, if they're not feeling it,
what are we doing?
Maybe we should just do it. And we did. And so then at that point, we became a digital media organization. And it's been a journey from then, but how foreshadowing young people were, and a little bit of luck. Yeah. Because if we were a print magazine when the pandemic hit, we would have been totally irrelevant. Yeah. Because we had already leaned into this change of going digital, we were doing some programs remotely already. We were already using some of the tools that people had to adapt to so quickly. So, and it made us more relevant to funders, honestly, because now we're in the tech space. Now we're in the STEM space, so it's like communication is down. And just now it's like, it's this kind of a merger of the creative field with the technical field. And we're kind of on the cusp of that. So listening to young people, I don't hate to say it because that's what our organization is about, but they were right. But I will say, I'm glad to say we listened, even though I had to shed a thug tear for the magazine. So
I have to tell you, this theme of, founders shifting and evolving sort of the programming and the work in response to what they're hearing from the people that they're trying to work with and support and serve, that, it's so important to do. And it's hard, right? Because, there is something lost in letting go of magazines. Yeah.
And I'll say to piggyback off of what DeAnna was saying, early on when we first started TrueStar, it didn't have a name. We didn't know, it was a newsletter. It was pretty much just to show the young people's parents what they have been working on. And they let us know. They said, hey, we want to learn how to shoot the pictures that are here in this newsletter. We want to learn how to do the graphic layout for the actual newsletter. So because they told us that, we listened and we created another program around it. And that is kind of like how I feel the reason that we have been around for as long as we've been around is because it grew organically.
Yes.
Like when I placed that call to DeAnna, it was totally like, we didn't have a strategic plan, a business plan, a nothing plan. So we allowed it to kind of just blossom into this thing. Like we were doing the programming for maybe 2.5 years before we even made a 501c3 because we didn't know, what this was. And DeAnna and I sat down. I remember the day we sat down on my couch and she said, I think that we could do something with this. Let's, try to see if we can do something bigger. and, get some additional funding and do some more programs with the young people, because they're telling us this is what they want. And because we listen, like you just mentioned, because we listened to what they wanted, and when we were able to put that program out there, they felt heard. They felt like, oh, they listened to us. These adults actually listened to us, and they took value in what we had to say. And so that's a confidence boost in itself for these young people, because a lot of times, unfortunately, adults don't listen to them and they feel unheard. And then that's when you get all the, bad anything, bad attitudes, bad opinions of themselves, low self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel that, from day one, we were kind of, so like DeAnna said, when they told us about the magazine, we was like, well, what?
Yeah.
We love the magazine. And luckily we went on ahead and we listened to them, just like we listened to so many other things. And we had to think in our minds, like, they haven't steered us wrong. So let's go ahead and see how we can go ahead and just, jump into that and, see what pops. I don't know.
I love that. So I guess one question I have is, you talked about the young people feeling heard, right, as part of their work with you. Is that the primary sort of transformation that you're trying to bring about in their lives? And like, what are some of the changes that you see in the lives and sort of personalities and experiences of the young people that you work with as a result of going through your program?
To answer the first question, yes, that's definitely the primary. It's a teaching organization, and we want to teach them how to, I won't say teach them. We want to help them honor themselves and have confidence and understand that they are of value to this world. Every single individual person has a footprint in this world for a reason, and they should never feel silenced or belittled. And because of our feelings of this, we exude it, across the programs. And we've been so fortunate to find instructors and adults and industry professionals who work with us who are on the same exact page. They, they love having fun with the kids. They, they love being able to be mentors for them and just walking them through this path. So that is definitely something that is like, number one. And some of the things that we see coming through the program, like we'll have some young people who only do the program for 1 year because they don't hear about us till senior year. Then they're mad and they got to go off to college. But we've been fortunate to get young people when they're in 7th and 8th grade. And we've gotten young people when they were sophomores and they just stayed on with the program. But we've seen from our early days, a young lady who didn't even know how to properly pronounce her name. Her name is Diamond. And she pronounced her name Diamond. It's like, that's not your name.
Yeah.
The simplest thing. But once she began making presentations and, having to go before, corporations and just the things that she never thought in a million years she would even do as an adult, let alone a 15-year-old. Her confidence, and she's, to this day, she is an entrepreneur on her own. And she credits a lot of the things that she learned within TrueStar. Because she didn't know how to put together presentations. She didn't know how to, present herself in a meeting and how to shoot her shot in a professional manner.
Yeah.
And, she didn't know, many of the things. And that's just one example. We have so many examples. We have examples of young people who have gone on to be news anchors in major markets on major stations. We have young people who have started their own PR firms. Young people who are in law school. We have young people who went to be a manager at Budweiser. They don't all necessarily go into the media field, but our thing is about them being successful in whatever they define success as and whatever field they want to go into. You don't have to become Oprah Winfrey because you are in TrueStar. We would love that. But you may want to go to medical school, or you may want to, be a CNA, or you may want to be an athletic trainer, whatever it is. You just have to know how to communicate and present yourself in whatever it is that you want to do. And that's what TrueStar is about.
I love that. So I'm hearing, just in terms of the sort of core outcomes, there's confidence building, there's a sense of self-efficacy, that when I say something, when I move into the world will respond in a positive way, right? I can make a difference. And you're right, that doesn't have to show up as Oprah, although again, wonderful. But those are skills that go into kids' lives, no matter what profession they go into. I think that's really
Right.
incredible. Are you, so you talked about working in partnership with other institutions, partners, groups, people. How do you guys do all of this? Because there's a lot, right? The sort of the digital production and program. There's the direct work with the young people. A lot of the transformations you've been talking about, Nate, I mean, those happen over time, right? With kids. So you're running programs. Do you work with community organizations? Do you work with businesses? Like, how do you partner with folks to get the programming into the lives of the kids?
Well, first I'll say it's a lot of prayer.
No. I just saw DeAnna's face. She's like, well.
I was thinking like, yeah, how do we do all that?
Yeah.
We do a lot. Our staff who are underpaid and a lot of times overworked, they're just amazing. And I think that speaks to Nate and I and just the relationships we've been able to build. We've just attracted good people. We've attracted good people into the organization who want to see us do well. And when you do that, that's how you're able to create great programming. So obviously we partner with some certain funders here in Chicago to help provide stipends or help underwrite certain costs of the programs. But honestly, it is us doing the programs. It's not like we partner with a film studio and they do the programs. And not that we're not open to that either, but I think that the biggest partnership we have is with our instructors and with our staff, and those relationships help yield these amazing outcomes through our programs.
Yeah, no, and that is, I mean, any partnership that an organization has, the strongest one should be with the staff, should be with the folks that are the fuel of your mission. So that really, really resonates with me. I guess one question that comes up for me then is, if there are institutions, organizations that are outside of your staff that want to be involved, that want to support your young people, that want to connect to your work, what are the ways in to supporting your organization? There's obviously supporting as a donor, but are there, volunteer opportunities or partnership opportunities that you guys would be open to with other kinds of institutions to support your programming and your work?
So I would love to be incubated by a digital creative company that sees value in building a pipeline of young creatives who have these technical skills coupled with these communication skills and entrepreneurial skills, and are on the cusp because we know that youth of color are really the vanguards of and the early adopters of new technologies and new things. That would be a perfect partnership. I think, gaining that visibility and getting those relationships. Oftentimes, Nate and I are in the weeds of the operations. And
Absolutely.
So that would be, great to grow out of the weeds where we're not so in the day-to-day, and really being able to do those big vision things, because I think that we're ready for that. We're ready for those big partnerships and big opportunities where we could, work with those entities. I would be so open to that. That would be kind of the next step for us, I think. And I think it's well overdue, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing Yeah, Nate's like nodding. I think that, I mean, what I hear you saying that's really exciting for an organization to be at this point is we've got our theory of change, right? We know our mission, we know how to achieve the mission, and we're doing it well. We are seeing real transformation over decades of young people and their lives, and they're going into these professions and they're going into fields and they're taking what they learned with us and having a real impact on the world. And we've got this model and we're ready to take it to the next level.
Yeah. And I think that we're able to, and I think this is something that, maybe we just, not to blame everything on capacity, but for instance, we had a great partnership with State Farm Innovations Lab in 1871, which is a tech incubator here. So they did a hackathon benefiting TrueStar. And that felt like really right. The type of partnerships that we really need, a bunch of technologists in a room creating these amazing things for us. And then State Farm took it a step further and said, you know what, the winning team, we're going to fund to do a prototype of this app that was developed. And so now we are in the final stages of the app prototype.
Amazing.
So I'm hoping that the funding will extend further to really develop it out. But
Yes.
That's just an example of something that we were able to do that I think is a good model. But I'm just hoping that we can, the funder will continue to be passionate about it. Because sometimes, they do things and it's like, oh, that was great. And we're done with that. On to the next thing. So hopefully, we're able to continue the relationship, but that felt really right. And another way that I didn't mention before, we do have a Sessions with the Pros platform where we bring in professionals to actually teach master classes to students.
Nice. And that's amazing.
And that has been, and that was kind of built out of a basic need, because now that we're in this tech space, great tech people don't have time to necessarily teach a program, but they could take an hour, 2 hours and actually teach a component. So we've partnered with Facebook with Sessions of the Pros. We partnered with a strategy person at Vox Media who came in and did an excellent, amazing session on voice in the digital space. And so that is kind of our way to say, hey, you could come and actually teach students.
Absolutely.
And that has worked really well for us. So I think just building off of that and like the 1871 app development partnership are ways that we're looking to make bigger in the future.
I love it. Those are so exciting. Opportunities to sort of take these core skills and this core model that you have and really leverage it for broader impact.
Exactly.
So for folks that want to reach out and learn more, where do they go? Tell us where folks can find TrueStar and find more information.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Natai.
I was just going to give our website.
Okay.
Definitely go to TrueStarFoundation.org, which is all spelled out phonetically, TrueStarFoundation.org. We also have a blog site that people can check out the work of the students, and they TrueStar.life.
Nice.
And we're also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're everywhere. Was you gonna say something else, DeAnna?
Nope, you got it. I would just really encourage people to follow us on LinkedIn, where we post a lot of kind of programmatic videos so they could kind of see the behind the scenes of the program and the business. And then please check out the young people's work at TrueStar.life and on Instagram at true.chi, true.shy. And we're Googleable and
nailed it.
and very accessible. So you can find our phone numbers. We do still do old school and actually talk on the phone.
And read magazines.
Exactly. But yeah, we would love people to reach out and learn more and partner with us and support us.
Amazing. It is always so much fun talking to you ladies. I love what you do. And it was every time I talk, I learn more about how you're doing your incredible work. Thank you so much for being here and sharing it with us today.
Thank you for having us, Brooke. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of the Nonprofit Mastermind podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you think what we talk about here, the trainings and the guests and the conversations, could benefit another leader in your life, I'd love if you would leave a review and share with your friends. If you want to take the next step and begin to put into practice what we talk about on this podcast, I've created a toolkit where I collect and share downloads from many of our conversations. It's got templates, worksheets, and references to help you execute on what we talk about here on the Mastermind. There's lots of great stuff, and I add to it almost every week. You can download it at richie-babbage.com/architecture of impact toolkit. I also want to share another free resource for leaders of growing nonprofits. It's a free training. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There: The 4 questions you need to ask to know if your nonprofit is really ready to scale. Growing an organization doesn't happen by accident, as we all know. You have to take the right strategic steps at the right time to avoid overwhelm and burnout and that horrible feeling that so many of us have had as you watch the work of your organization outstrip capacity and sometimes even funding. It's almost impossible to reverse engineer good growth. And by that, I mean growth that can be sustained over time, just by looking at what you think you see in other organizations. So in this free training, I help cut through all the noise, and I identify the 4 simple questions that, if you really engage with them and think about them, will tell you when you're ready to grow without frenzy, without overwhelm, and with the confidence that you're making the right moves for your organization. You can access the training at richie-babbage.com/ready to scale. Finally, if you'd like more leadership resources and strategies in your life, sign up for my weekly newsletter, Leadership Forward 321. Each week, I curate and share 3 articles, 2 resources, and a quote on a theme. You can get that at richie-babbage.com/leadership forward 321. That's all for now. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next week for more Mastermind.